players, commentators, and all-around sports fanatics. And this past summer, like so many new fans across the country, they fell in love with the professional women's soccer, thanks to the NWSL's Challenge Cup. At the conclusion of the event, the pair took a moment to break down the tournament and look forward to the promising future for this league.
And welcome to Eagle TV, brought to you by the Columbus Eagles FC. We are at Caddy's Delight here in Grandview, Ohio. Next to me, joining me, Mr. Walter Lukaczynski. How are we doing tonight, man?
Dude, it's awesome. Sports are finally back. We got to see a champion crown this last week in the Houston Dash. It's a good time to talk soccer.
First thing, there's going to be 2 new expansion teams here for the NWSL. Is the NWSL expanding too fast or not fast enough?
I think it's actually at a pretty good pace right now, just because if you do consider, there's never been a more popular time for women's soccer. You get to see the women's national team is electric every 4 years. Everybody wants to watch women's soccer right now. So I think it's a good time. You've seen what the league's been able to do. Honestly, it gives the league more credibility. When you have leagues with less than 10 teams, it doesn't feel as challenging, and I don't feel like people respect the champions as much. So now that we are getting into the double digits, I do think it is a very credible and exciting time for the NWSL.
Absolutely, and I know we were talking about it. MLS started back in '96. Mm-hmm. They started with 10 teams, and they didn't have another expansion team until at least, I want to say 2005. So that's basically 10 full seasons without that. And then they got to 11. Here the NWSL started in 2012, and they're already about to crack the 11 mark in less than a decade. So they are definitely taking it at the right time. MLS wasn't as developed. You know, back then, people weren't watching that much soccer. Mm-mm. Let's be real here. So the 96 and the early 2000s, there was only about 3 or 4 other teams that came in. Now the 2010s and coming up on the 2020s, I guess. I don't even know if I say that correctly. Man. So now they're getting a lot more teams. You know, within that window of 2013 to like 2017, they added numerous teams, and now they're at the point where they have 26 teams. So I think the fact that they're going to start expanding now, it's the right time to expand. I don't think any of the owners or anyone's going to complain about more money coming in their way. Would you complain?
No, I mean, you did hit it too, where the MLS, they were a little slower to grow, but it was also because of the time. And you're right, people like us weren't watching soccer in 1999 or early 2000s. Yep. People like us, we're engaged now. We're excited about this. We want teams here. So I think it's a great idea.
Now, what comes first? Essentially the chicken or the egg. Do you want to have a big fandom lead into TV exposure? Or do you think it should be the other way, where you should have TV exposure that leads into the inevitable fandom, you know, for these cities?
Well, it's been the excuse for a long time to keep smaller sports and women's sports from being on the national stage. It's that they do not have the fandom to watch. They do not have people. They don't have the eyeballs. They're not getting the clicks. And at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's all about the numbers. Problem is without getting that initial exposure, you're not going to be able to grow the sport. For me, it's absolutely a better idea to start getting it on television now. And from that point, the game's just going to grow. I
think personally that you need to have TV exposure to grow your fan base, like you said. Is Columbus ready for an NWSL team?
I don't know if there's a city more ready. I mean, exactly. This is the birth of the beginning of the MLS. The Crew, they tried to take them away. Look what happened. The grassroots effort here in Cleveland to keep the team. They got a new stadium, and there's not really a city with Columbus's size, because obviously there's going to be the LAs, the Houstons, these giant cities. But the fandom here is crazy. It's different about soccer, and like a lot of places, they're kind of split up with the EPL and stuff like that in viewership. Yep. Here, it's really not like that. Here in Columbus, the MLS is getting a ton of eyeballs just on the Crew alone. A ton of exposure. There's bars devoted for them, like just the Crew. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a great time to have a team here. You talked on the TV numbers. 8th. There's 9 NWSL teams. They're ahead of people. That's insane. What do you think's going to happen the moment you throw a team here in Columbus? They're going to put up numbers.
Could not agree more. Kind of backtracking to the TV exposure versus the big fandom. If you're gonna bring a team to a city like Columbus, who's basically Ohio State football, and the Columbus Crew sprinkled in with the Blue Jackets, of course, but there's gonna be a huge fandom. People love the Crew here. I used to live across the street from a Crew bar, and my God, those guys get rowdy. They get after it. So it would just be an automatic trickle-down effect. I think that they would grow a huge fandom. I mean, look at this logo.
Oh, I don't know. That's weird.
Oh, this whole thing. So I think, if anyone, if you're going to get an NWSL team, you're going to have to search around. Columbus Eagles obviously are going to be
prime opportunity.
Yeah, they're already in form. There's a lot of things logistically that you wouldn't really have to do because it's already getting taken care of right now. So Walter, the Columbus Crew. Now they're in the bubble down in Orlando playing. Unfortunately, they have lost, so they're no longer in there, as well as Cincinnati, so no more Ohio teams to root for. So they had a bubble in Orlando. NWSL started it all. Had 2,000 tests?
No positives.
No positive, all negative. So they were essentially made the blueprint for the MLS to make this possible. I mean, they did a great job on it.
Yeah.
And how do you think it went, with NWSL and with the MLS going on?
It was definitely a home run. I mean, you can definitely look back and say, had this gone wrong with the NWSL, who knows what that could have meant for the MLS, for the NBA, for the NHL, all these sports that are using a bubble. If that failed the first time, all of a sudden you have these other leagues saying, exactly. I don't know if this is going to work. So honestly, home run, A+.
And like you said, NWSL was the stepping stone for all of this. They had that, then you have the MLS start, you're having NBA start back up tonight. If that would have went south, how do you think this all would have played out?
It's kind of like what we were leading to.
If NWSL went south, I should probably word that better. Where do you think you'd be sitting right now with all the other sports leagues?
You definitely, we were kind of alluding to it here a moment ago, but if they did struggle, or if the NWSL failed to finish a season or failed to finish the Challenge Cup tournament, there's a very good chance we don't see live sports coming back here at the end of July, early August. And it's just unfortunate, or it was fortunate that it happened, because then, I mean, we talk about it a lot off camera that the NBA have already lost $1 billion, would have lost $1 billion had the season ended and not actually been able to finish. They don't want to come back and have it fail again, because that's even more money they're losing without a champion. So with what happened, it was the best case scenario. And you asked if it went wrong, what would happen? There's a chance we wouldn't be looking at sports right now.
No, we wouldn't. And I've had this conversation with multiple people. That's what I'm scared about most. Because if this fails, then there's literally nothing else.
Yeah.
Because if there's going to be a second wave, if it happens, we can't be like, oh, let's try this again. No, we already failed. I'm glad that it worked. We needed it to work. NWSL made the stepping stone. They walked so we could run, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And congrats to the Houston Dash for winning that Challenge Cup. First real championship coming back, so good for them. That's
James
awesome.
Harden, that might be the only championship you got, bud. I'm sorry to say it. I am very sorry to say it. And that is all we have for you tonight on Eagle TV, brought to you by the Columbus Eagles FC. Shout out to Caddy's Delight here for having us again on West 3rd Avenue in Grandview. For my partner in crime, Mr. Walter Lukaczynski, thank you for joining me tonight.
Absolutely.
I'm Stephen Weed on Eagles TV, and we will catch you next time.
Great stuff, guys. You can hear much more from Wally and Weed on Thursday nights by visiting the website scoreonair.com. And their new podcast, Turnover on Downs, is available now on Spotify and Apple Music.